let us focus on the general meaning of argument. General meaning of argument. As we do this, I need to draw another dichotomy between the idea of reasoning and arguing. The former name is argumentation. We typically use arguing. Often we use argument as an emotional dispute between two people. In philosophy, arguing means a presentation of evidence to support a claim, to support a theory of some sort. So it is not an emotional discussion, it's truth leads to implied truth. So reasoning and argument, very closely related. You can use it as synonyms in most places. As we get deep and get complex problems, we need to be able to draw a distinction between them, all right? Reasoning is a first-person account of logic. It's when you have the experience yourself, you have the data yourself, and you're drawing your conclusion. We talked about Bigfoot earlier. So you're out there camping, you're out there in the morning walk, and you see this bear, but then it's walking like a man. And you start thinking to yourself, is that a Bigfoot? But you don't believe in such things. That's not, you don't believe in that kind of stuff. This is reasoning. The evidence is before your eyes. There is an animal there. You're trying to figure out what to label it. All right. It's far enough you don't have to run, but it is very precarious to see something like that out in the woods. Okay. Third person account would be if you were to share this information with the people back at the camp. All right. They would have to listen to you giving your evidence, but they didn't see it. So it's not their evidence. Now you're arguing to them. You give them the truth and they have to validate your claims, whether or not they should accept them or not. In the first one, it's your intelligence being active, trying to determine what I should label what I observe with my eyes as this mythological creature called the Bigfoot. Okay. But when you're back in the camp, you're trying to convince people of what you experience. Before, if you can just do that. You don't want to give a label, just say, this is what I observe. I know it cannot be true. And maybe they can all run over there with you and see if they see the same sort of thing. They have the same experience. But arguing is you're presenting evidence to someone else. Whereas reasoning is about you trying to convince your own self to accept something as being true or false. All right. So it's about you. When you're doing philosophy, the first person to convince is yourself. Many people like to argue and they focus on trying to convince other people. That's not the way of the philosopher. In philosophy, you are the primary person. You're researching, you're looking, you're studying and studying to get your own conviction, to create your own position on that particular issue. It's all about you. It's all about me. That's what matters in philosophy, most important. It's more, your view is more important than anything else. That is beyond a shadow of a doubt. Once you have some view on that or some description of what you think about that experience you had, you want to label it Bigfoot or not, okay? Then you could turn, you want to share that information. When you want to do that, now you're engaged in arguing. And the difference is that when it's about you, you have to know your own standard of truth, your own standard of logic, and what's acceptable evidence or not. When you work working with someone else, when you're arguing, you have to understand the other person's mind. You may be good in reasoning, but horrible in arguing, because arguing requires you to understand the minds of other people, understanding their sense of truth and logic, evidence, are they emotional, and things of that nature. If you're not willing to do that, then you're going to be a poor arguer. No matter how much truth and evidence that's inside your head, it is meaningless to the other person. Okay, all it is empty words coming from your lips. So, assuming you understand the agenda to understand the individual in front of you, this is the way argument work, okay? When you present an argument to whoever you're looking at, it's like this, okay? You present a statement that's supposed to be true, okay? I was walking and down below the valley away from me, I saw this creature walking, okay? And it walked like a man, but it was a bear, right? That is the evidence. That is the evidence you're gonna present, right? And from that evidence, you're going to say, my dear friend, I believe that's a Bigfoot, all right? And so you want them to believe in a Bigfoot, but only you have the evidence. Now, the question, will they accept that evidence? It all depends whether or not what kind of friend you are. If you're a practical joker, they'll never accept it, even if it's absolutely true, because they know you joke too much. So the foundation of all arguments are just like that, right? You give a premise, a statement that's will be true, and you look at one that a conclusion. Now, like for example, suppose I want to convince you that Bigfoot might exist. Bigfoot might exist, all right? How would I do that? I could bring you a premise, all right? For example, evolutionary theory. Do you believe in evolutionary theory? Well, if you believe in evolutionary theory, then it implies that Bigfoot might be true. I'm not saying Bigfoot is true. The conclusion I'm looking for is that Bigfoot might be true. Well, if evolutionary theory is true, and you're usually looking at an animal that we're familiar with, a bear that's standing and walking like a man, that's not far-fetched that through the evolutionary process of natural selection, that creature has appeared in the past, might be appearing somewhere in the world right now, or could appear in the future. So if you really believe in evolutionary theory, you have to accept the possibility of the existence of Bigfoot in the past, the present, or the future. You have no choice. Now that's an argument. There's no escape from that. I didn't try to prove to you Bigfoot exists now. That would be something else. I would need another set of evidence for that. Going a little further in this idea of the argument, all right, going a little further. When you map out the arguments, okay, an argument has a premise. Like recognized facts, accepted theories, and social beliefs. Who must accept these to be true? The person to whom you're arguing, all right? The person to whom you're arguing must accept these truths. It's not these, since you're not reasoning, it's not about you. You need to find truth that the person you're arguing to already accept to be true. And then you draw your logical inference to the conclusion that you're going to. When you're arguing, you always begin with the conclusion. You know what you want to prove to that person. Then you have to backtrack and see what they already believe in. If there's nothing that they believe in that will lead them to the conclusion that you want, then you got to pause the regular argument and begin another argument to give them that set of beliefs. If they don't believe in theory of evolution for whatever reason, you got to pause and argue for the validity of the theory of evolution. And once they accept the theory of evolution, then you go back and say, because the theory of evolution is true, then it implies that Bigfoot might exist. Okay, this is how arguments work. And notice, when you're looking at truths, they can have many, many conclusions. So that's why an argument works backward. When you are arguing, you begin with the conclusion. You begin what you want to prove in your mind. And then you say, how can I prove that? Then you do the research to find the evidence to prove what you're looking for. Sometimes when you do the research, there's not enough evidence, and you may have to change what you want to prove because you don't have evidence for that. And this is the important part. You don't always get to prove what you want. You can prove what the evidence allows you to prove. So this is the structure of arguments, all right? Although I put 3 premises here, the smallest argument is only 2 premises, 1 statement and then 1 conclusion, okay? The conclusion is implied to be true, okay? The person you're talking to must accept the truth. When you come up from the same community, same background, you both accept the truths. Sometimes you don't have similar backgrounds, so it has to be their truths though. If they don't accept the truth, there can be no argument. And the conclusion is implied to be true. Conclusions are not true independently. Their conclusion, their truth depends on what came before it.